They say if you want to be seen, speak louder, show more, take up space. But the ones who are really felt move in silence. They're not loud, they're undeniable. Not because they demand attention, but because they carry something that doesn't need to be sold. Weight, not noise. Depth, not decoration. This video isn't about strategy, it's about signal. The kind that shifts a room without saying a word. People respect what feels rooted, what doesn't flinch, what doesn't reach. So if you're tired of chasing importance, of over-explaining your worth, this is for you. Not to teach you how to stand out, but how to stand still until others feel the difference. These aren't tricks, they're traits, applied in silence, felt without force. Apply them, and priority won't need to be claimed. It will become natural. People reveal everything. Too fast, too loud, too soon. They think openness creates closeness. But the Stoic knows mystery builds gravity, and gravity pulls. You don't need to hide, you just need to guard. Because what's sacred loses power when it's thrown into casual space. The more they know, the more they assume. The more they assume, the less they listen. So the Stoic doesn't fill the silence, he watches it. He speaks when it lands, not when it's expected. Because when every moment is exposed, nothing holds weight. But when you hold back, when you protect what's real, you become harder to solve and harder to replace. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's mastery. A presence that doesn't need to explain, and a silence that others lean into. Most people speak to be seen. But the Stoic knows silence can say more. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's focus. It's when the moment stretches, and you don't rush to fill it. You let it breathe, let it drop. The insecure break silence with noise. But the grounded, they let silence work for them. They don't interrupt the stillness. Because they know, in that space, people reveal themselves. Truth rises, and respect builds. You don't need to answer fast, you don't need to jump in, you just need to be still enough to feel the weight of a pause, and strong enough not to flinch. True presence isn't about taking up space, it's about holding space without needing to prove anything inside it. The Stoic enters a room without chasing attention, and still shifts it. Because when you master silence, you stop asking to be respected and start evoking it. Statements declare, stories invite, one tells, the other pulls. Most people try to impress with opinions, but the Stoic knows people don't follow facts, they follow feeling. When you speak in cold logic, you may be right, but you're forgettable. But when you show an idea, when you wrap it in tension, conflict, image, pace, it lands differently. It sticks. Because humans don't move from proof, they move from what they relate to. So the Stoic doesn't try to sound wise, he speaks like a mirror, and the listener sees themselves inside the message. You don't need to say more. You need to say it like it means something. Not louder, but truer. Not to convince, but to cut through. And when people feel seen, they don't just listen, they lean in. Most people give with one eye on the scoreboard, but the Stoic gives without a receipt. Not because he's naive, but because he knows. True power gives freely and watches what comes back, not with hope, but with clarity. Reciprocity is natural, but if it has to be forced, it's not real. So he doesn't chase fairness, he observes it, quietly, because what people do with your giving reveals more about them than words ever will. You want to be a priority? Don't ask. Give, not to impress, not to manipulate, but to see who respects the energy when there's no invoice attached. And if they don't, you don't demand more. You just stop offering what they never valued. Because giving without tracking isn't weakness, it's a filter. And the Stoic always knows who's worth the cost. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you delay your own needs, they will too. If you overextend, they'll expect it. The Stoic doesn't ask for priority, he embodies it. In how he rests, in how he eats, in how he says no, without guilt. You don't need to announce your standards, you live them. Quietly, consistently, and people will adjust or they will leave. Either way, you win. Because when you move like someone who matters, the world has two choices: rise to meet you or fall away. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. You don't need to force it, you just need to stop abandoning yourself to be chosen. Respect starts where self-betrayal ends. Everyone hears, almost no one sees. They wait to speak, they scan for weakness, they collect words but miss the weight behind them. The Stoic listens differently, not to respond, but to observe, not to fix, but to witness. He watches the eyes, the breath between words. The story beneath the story, because when someone feels seen, they remember you. Even if you said nothing. In a world full of noise, silence that sees is rare, is felt. You don't win people by dominating the room. You win them by making space inside it for what matters. Not with charm, with presence. Because attention fades, but recognition, it echoes. And the listener who truly sees doesn't need to ask for trust, he becomes it. Always being there doesn't make them see you, it makes you forgettable. The Stoic doesn't vanish, but he's not on call. He moves on purpose, not on demand. Because when access is unlimited, so is entitlement. You don't need to be cold, you need to be calibrated. Present when it matters, absent when it drains. Hard to reach, not because of ego, but because of focus. Scarcity, when earned, creates magnetism. And the people who truly see your worth? They won't need constant updates. They'll value what's rare, what's intentional, what doesn't chase because it doesn't need to. The Stoic doesn't prove his presence. He makes it missed. That's not detachment, that's discernment. If you don't own your emotion, it owns you. You speak too soon, you take it personal. You react and regret. But the Stoic doesn't kill his feelings, he just doesn't let them rule. He watches the wave without riding it. He breathes instead of biting, because anger is loud. But clarity is quieter, and power isn't in the punch, it's in the pause. You don't lose respect by feeling. You lose it by bleeding on everyone, every time it hurts. Mastery isn't cold, it's calm. Calm is stronger than control. Because when your emotion stays in your hands, not theirs, you stop being a target. You become untouchable. Nothing holds power like the one who can leave, not from bitterness, but from clarity. The Stoic doesn't cling, he chooses. And if respect isn't mutual, if presence isn't valued, he moves, quietly, finally. Because staying isn't strength when it costs your peace. You don't demand priority, you don't chase treatment, you just show by your absence what they failed to honor in your presence. Walking away isn't revenge, it's alignment. It says, I choose myself over spaces that shrink me, and that's not loss. That's liberation. So be ready. Not to punish, but to protect what no one else sees as sacred. Your time, your calm, your worth. You can't ask to matter. You become the kind of presence that's hard to forget. Not because you demand it, but because you carry something that doesn't need a spotlight to leave an impact. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You need to be felt by the right ones. And when they meet someone who speaks less, but sees more, who gives but never begs, who leaves not to hurt but to protect, they remember. Because in a world of noise, the one who moves with weight without chasing stands out by simply standing still. You want priority? Don't ask for it. Don't manipulate for it. Don't bend for it. Become the one whose presence shifts the room, and whose absence says what words never could. The Stoic doesn't climb the ladder. He becomes the ground others want to stand near. Because people always know, even if they can't explain it, who's centered, who's real, who's undeniable. That's not charisma, that's character. Built in silence, revealed in how you walk away without ever raising your voice.